February 19th, 2013, guests at the Cecil Hotel in downtown Los Angeles began complaining about the water. It tasted strange, dark in color, low pressure from the taps. The kind of complaint a hotel maintenance worker gets on a Tuesday morning and doesn't think twice about. His name was Santiago Lopez. He climbed to the roof. 4 large water cisterns sat up there, each one 8 feet tall, each one holding 1,000 gallons. He checked the hatches. One of them was open. Inside the tank, floating face up, was the body of a young woman. She was naked. Her clothing was floating nearby, coated in a fine sand-like particulate. Her room key was at the bottom of the tank. Her watch was at the bottom of the tank. She had been in that tank for 19 days. The guests had been drinking that water, brushing their teeth with that water, showering in it, complaining that it tasted strange. Her name was Elisa Lam. She was 21 years old. She was a student at the University of British Columbia in Vancouver, Canada. She had a blog she updated regularly about books, about travel, about the small, beautiful details of being alive in a new city. She had checked into the Cecil Hotel 24 days earlier. She was not supposed to still be there. Nobody knew how she got into that tank. The roof was locked and alarmed. The tanks themselves had heavy lids. The opening at the top was 18 inches wide. Getting inside would have required climbing in deliberately and pulling the lid closed from inside. The official explanation is that she did this herself, in a state of psychiatric crisis, without leaving a single fingerprint on the outer surface of the tank. That is the official explanation. This is the case of Elisa Lam. And if you think you already know this story because you saw the elevator video, you don't know it yet. The elevator video is 30 seconds of the story. What happened before it and what happened after it is what nobody talks about. This is the promise to the viewer. We are going to go through all of it. The hotel, the history, the days leading up to January 31st, the video, the 19 days after, the autopsy, the questions the autopsy could not answer, and the one detail about this case that has never been satisfactorily explained, not by the coroner, not by the LAPD, not by Netflix. We start with the building. Because to understand what happened to Elisa Lam, you first need to understand where it happened. And the Cecil Hotel is not a backdrop to this story. The Cecil Hotel is a character in it. The Cecil Hotel opened in 1924 on South Main Street in Los Angeles. Marble lobby, stained glass, 600 rooms. It was built to be grand. Within 3 years, a man named Percy Ormond Cook shot himself in the head in one of the rooms. He was the first. He was not the last. The Great Depression pulled the Cecil slowly into Skid Row, the most devastated neighborhood in Los Angeles. Drug use, violence, prostitution. By the time anyone documented the death count, it was at least 18 unnatural deaths. Suicides mostly, some murders. In 1964, a woman named Goldie Osgood, known locally as Pigeon Goldie, because she fed birds in the park every morning, was found in her room. Raped, stabbed, strangled. The case was never solved. In the 1980s, Richard Ramirez lived at the Cecil, the Night Stalker. 13 confirmed murders across California. He paid $14 a night. He used the back entrance. The other residents knew him as quiet. In 1991, an Austrian serial killer named Jack Unterweger checked in while working as a journalist covering the LAPD. He killed 3 women during his stay. He chose the Cecil specifically. He had read about Ramirez and wanted to follow in his footsteps. This is where Elisa Lam checked in on January 26, 2013. She booked it because it was affordable. She was 21 years old and traveling alone for the first time, trying to be smart about money. She didn't know the history. Most people who stayed at the Cecil didn't. She called her parents that first day, the way she called them every single day of her trip. She told them she had arrived safely. She was excited. After Los Angeles, she was going to Santa Cruz. She had 5 more days until checkout. Within 48 hours, her roommates complained to management about her behavior. The hotel moved her to a private room. The complaints were described in legal proceedings as certain odd behavior. What exactly she did was never disclosed. Elisa Lam had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and depression. She was on medication to manage both. At some point during her stay at the Cecil, she stopped taking it. When her belongings were later recovered, the pill counts did not match the number of days she had been in the city. Nobody knows when she stopped. Nobody knows why. On January 29th, 2 days before she disappeared, she attended a live television taping in Burbank. Security escorted her out for erratic behavior. She sent a letter to the host of the show. The contents were never released. 2 days later, she was gone. January 31st, 2013. The day Elisa Lam was scheduled to check out and leave for Santa Cruz. She did not call her parents. They waited. They called her. No answer. This was the first time in the entire trip she had not been in contact. Her father called the LAPD. Her parents flew to Los Angeles. Police searched her room, laptop, wallet, ID, clothes, medication, all of it still there. She had left with essentially nothing she would need to survive, travel, or get on a bus to Santa Cruz. She simply had not come back. For 13 days, nothing. The police searched. Her parents searched. The hotel was searched. Nothing. On February 13th, the LAPD released surveillance footage from the Cecil's elevator. The last known footage of Elisa Lam alive. In the footage, she enters the elevator alone. She presses multiple buttons. The elevator does not move. The doors stay open. She walks to the doorway and looks into the hallway. First one way, then the other. She steps back inside, steps back out, presses herself against the wall just outside the doors. Her hands move in front of her, gesturing at something or to someone in a way that is difficult to categorize. Not distress, not aggression, something closer to a conversation. She goes back inside, presses more buttons. The doors finally begin to close. She watches them. Then she walks away down the hallway and disappears from the frame. The footage is 2 minutes and 37 seconds long. When investigators reviewed every camera in the building from that night, there was nobody else in that hallway. Nobody who could account for what she was reacting to. 2 explanations exist. The first, a psychotic episode from coming off her medication. Whatever she was responding to was not real. This is what the LAPD and the coroner concluded. The second, someone else was there. The LAPD acknowledged the timestamp on the released footage had been altered to protect other guests, they said. That acknowledgement did nothing to quiet the questions. One detail almost nobody mentions. After Elisa Lam walks away and disappears from frame, the elevator sits there, motionless, for an unusually long time before responding to any other call, as if something was holding it. On February 19th, 19 days after she disappeared, Santiago Lopez opened the hatch on a rooftop water tank and found her. She had been there the entire time, while her parents walked the streets calling her name, while investigators searched floor by floor. 8 feet above where anyone thought to look. 19 days. The autopsy was performed on February 21st. The final coroner's report was not released for 4 months. Cause of death: accidental drowning. Bipolar disorder listed as a significant contributing factor. No physical trauma. No evidence of sexual assault. No illegal drugs. Blood alcohol at 0.02%, negligible. Traces of her prescription medication consistent with what was found in her room. That is what the autopsy found. Here is what it did not answer. The rooftop required a key card to access. The door was alarmed. Any opening would trigger an alert at the front desk. Hotel management stated no alarm triggered on the night of January 31st. No keycard record showed Elisa Lam accessing the roof. The water tanks had heavy metal lids. The opening at the top was approximately 18 inches wide. The tanks were 8 feet tall with no external ladder. Getting inside required climbing a smooth surface with no handholds and lowering through an 18-inch gap. Getting out required the same in reverse, from inside, wet, in the dark. Detective Wallace Tennell, the lead investigator, gave a deposition in the wrongful death lawsuit filed by Elisa's parents. He said, "My partner and I tried to figure out how somebody could have put her in there, and it's difficult for someone to have been able to do that and not leave prints, not leave DNA, or anything like that." He concluded from this that nobody put her in there. The coroner's report does not confirm that the rape kit and fingernail kit, collected as standard procedure, were ever fully processed. The results of those tests do not appear in the final report. Elisa Lam's phone was never found. Not in the tank, not in her room, not anywhere in the hotel. Her Tumblr blog continued to post after her death, through a scheduled queue she had set up. But some of the posts published after she died appeared to reference what had happened to her. Whether this was coincidence or the queue, no one has confirmed. In the months after her death, an amateur internet investigation accused a young musician named Morbid of being responsible. His address was published. Death threats were sent. His employer was contacted. His life was dismantled by people who had decided, without evidence, that they had solved the case. Morbid did not kill Elisa Lam. He was in Mexico on the day she disappeared, confirmed and documented. That is also part of this story. The harm that certainty without evidence causes to real people in real time is inseparable from how this case spread across the internet. We should sit with that before we move to the theories.
The theories. The official theory. Elisa experienced a psychotic episode from untreated bipolar disorder. She accessed the roof through means not captured on camera and not reflected in key card records. She climbed the tank, entered through the 18-inch opening, drowned. The lid closed on its own. No one else was involved. This requires accepting several things that are individually possible, but collectively improbable. It requires an untreated psychotic episode that produced the physical capacity to access a locked, alarmed roof, climb an 8-foot tank with no rungs, and lower through an 18-inch gap, without triggering any alarm, without being seen on any camera, without leaving any trace on the exterior. All of this is possible. None of it has been proven. The homicide theory. Someone who knew the building's security helped her, or forced her, onto that roof. The elevator video shows not psychosis, but fear of a real person. The absence of DNA on the tank exterior is not her acting alone, but someone who knew how to clean up. No evidence has ever been found to support this. The detective who worked the case for years found no evidence of another person's involvement. That is the documented record. The connection people noticed and could not let go. A 2005 Japanese horror film called Dark Water. In it, a girl's body is found in a rooftop water tank. An elevator malfunctions. The film was remade in America the same year. The Cecil Hotel appears in a different horror film's credits. People found these connections and decided they were meaningful. The similarity between the film and the case is documented and striking. Whether it means anything beyond coincidence is a question no one can answer with evidence. What we are left with if we keep only what is documented. A 21-year-old woman with bipolar disorder checked into one of the most historically violent hotels in Los Angeles, alone, stopped taking her medication, and was found 19 days later in a rooftop water tank. The coroner ruled it accidental. The detective believes it was accidental. The physical evidence neither confirms nor rules out another person, because the evidence from the tank exterior was never fully processed. Her phone was never found. The lab kit results were never published. The letter to the television host was never released. The key card access to the roof was never explained. These are not theories. These are documented gaps. They were gaps when the case closed in 2013. They are still gaps now. In one of her last blog posts before she disappeared, Elisa Lam wrote about wanting to be someone who was not afraid. We do not know if she was afraid. We do not know what she saw in that hallway. We do not know how she got onto that roof, or whether she did it alone. What we know is that she was 21 years old, that she called her parents every day, that she did not make it to Santa Cruz. Subscribe to Dark Pages. Every case is real. Every source is in the description, and not all of them have explanations. This was Dark Pages.